Hello, hello. This is Emmanuel with the Grab Some Popcorn podcast, and I'm doing something different today. I'm actually going to do a review of a show that I found on HBO Max. The name of the show is called Mad Men, and I watched the first season of Mad Men on HBO Max, and it was interesting to me because I also worked in advertising, so I was able to connect with the show on that level. The show also has a lot on relationships and corporate culture, a lot of stuff from the time period, which I think was in the 1940s and 50s. There was a lot of smoking cigarettes in the office and women still getting treated as sexual objects and stuff like that. Lots of dramatic and suspenseful things happened throughout the season, which made it super interesting, and I connected well, even though it didn't have much action or comedy, which are my usual go to genres. So I kept thinking, should I keep watching it or should I not keep watching it? And I ended up watching the entire first season. The themes, so it seemed like the series focused on a few main themes throughout. The first main theme was obviously the advertising part of it, in the company with them having to keep clients and make good ads. The second main theme that I noticed was how it based itself heavily on how the owners of the company and the operating chief officers were heavy on cheating with their secretaries and other women, such as attractive clients. This was a huge part of the theme as well. It touched on how this behavior trickled down through the corporate ladder, and so other account managers and men who worked in the company were alcoholics, tobacco addicts, and were prone to cheating on their wives. The third theme of the movie was something interesting, in which the main character was a soldier earlier in his life, and you don't get to really know much about it until some of the last episodes, but he basically did the entire first season under a false identity, which you only find out about in depth in the last few episodes. That's really interesting. Some about the characters. The character stories who I most followed were Don, the main character who was the VP of advertising, the boss above him, whose name was on the building, so he's like a true big shot. I guess he was the CEO, was another person who I tracked, and Peggy, who was Don's secretary. From the way I saw it, the CEO was the one who was addicted to alcohol and tobacco and had a habit of banging every hot secretary and client that came his way. This behavior he passed down to Don, and you saw Don cheat on his wife with several different women and also had an alcohol and tobacco addiction. But I think he got it from his boss. Peggy, who was Don's secretary, was a hardworking girl and moved up from secretary to copywriter, but along the way, she has some sexual relations with some of the account managers in the firm and even got pregnant, which you don't even learn about until the very last episode, and you're left wondering who was the father, and so now I have to watch a second season to find that out. So that's pretty tricky. Okay, let's take a look at some scenes or important moments. Okay, so for me, there were two big moments for me from the first season, other than having the exciting meetings with clients and the whole advertising jargon, which was fun for me since I worked in advertising. There was the moment where I found out that Don was a soldier who took on the identity of a lieutenant and left his family and became an advertising VP. The other most important theme only came at the very last episode when I found out that his secretary, Peggy, was pregnant, and now I have to watch the second season to figure out who's the father and to see what happens there. It ended up that Peter, who was a junior executive in the firm, found out about Don's identity and brought it up to the owner of the company, but the owner of the company said to just leave it alone. So Peggy's baby came in as a stronger theme, since I'm not sure that Don's identity is even going to be an issue any longer. Which is kind of sad for me because I'd rather explore deeper into Don's identity than explore deeper into the drama of Peggy's new baby. But I'm still going to watch the second season. Some predictions. So I know some people have already seen the show and the seasons, but I'm just coming across it now. I think that Peggy had a son with Peter Campbell, the junior executive, and this causes drama because Peter is already married, and anyone finding out that she had a baby with him would probably cause his marriage to suffer and maybe even his job and his whole life. I'm excited to see how this plays out, and I'm sure Don's whole identity thing will resurface in the second season as well. Don's boss had a heart attack in the first season, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with him, so I guess we find out about that too. And all of the scandal, advertising business, the relationships I built with the characters in the first season make me pretty excited to watch the second season, even though it lacks in any sort of action or comedy that usually would have to be there to keep me interested. The drama, suspense, and even the scandal have hooked me in enough to start the second season and see where it goes. Some final score and takeaway. So overall, I'd say I really enjoyed the first season. Sexual scandal is not my favorite theme for a movie. I do like business and advertising as a theme. The whole identity thing is great, and I really enjoy that. The Peggy's baby thing is something that I don't really identify with, and I wish it could be something different, but overall, I'd say the show is very well done. I'm excited to watch the second season to see how all the stories come together, and I'd say for what it's worth, I'd give the show and the first season an A in its class. I've built a relationship with the characters, and even though I'm not a fan of watching a whole bunch of scandal, it's done very well, so I don't mind it as much. That's my take on the first season of Mad Men. I'm probably going to watch the second season and do my take on that as well. But overall, definitely gets an A for me, especially since, I did advertising. So every time they're in a client meeting or something and they're doing some work on an advertisement, it gets pretty exciting for me, which I'm not sure if others would get as excited as I do. But nonetheless, it's a great show. And, there's so many different stories that are happening at any given time that all different types of people can enjoy it, from businessmen to people who like to watch shows on scandal and people who like to watch, the mystery of his identity. All of that, comes together in this show, which could be appealing to a pretty wide audience. So this is Emmanuel with the Grab Some Popcorn podcast. That was my take on the show Mad Men. You can watch it on HBO Max. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. So I'm over and out. See y'all next time.